Look at the front door of your house right now. Is there a little black plastic camera bolted next to your door handle? A smart doorbell? You bought it to keep the outside world out? You bought it so you could look at your phone, see a stranger standing on your porch, and feel completely safe behind dead-bolted wood. But you are missing the entire picture. What if I told you that by mounting that camera to protect your family, you didn't lock your house? What if I told you that you just gave an invisible predator the exact blueprint to your bedroom? To understand how a symbol of modern home security can be weaponized into the ultimate tracking tool, we have to look at what happened to 22-year-old Chloe Miller. It was mid-autumn. Chloe had just moved into her first solo apartment, a charming ground floor unit in a quiet, tree-lined suburban neighborhood. It felt perfect. But as a young woman living alone for the very first time, the nighttime silence of the apartment started to play tricks on her mind. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind against the glass made her heart race. So, she did what millions of us do to buy peace of mind. She spent $200 on a top-rated, high-definition smart doorbell. She screwed it into the door frame, synced it to her smartphone, and enabled push notifications. The first week, it worked exactly as advertised. She'd get a crisp, wide-angle video notification whenever the mail carrier dropped off a package. She could lie in her bed, look at her screen, and see the world outside her perimeter with absolute clarity. For the first time since moving in, Chloe felt completely secure. But in the world of behavioral profiling, behavioral psychologists know a terrifying truth about human nature. Our absolute reliance on technology creates our most fatal blind spots. If you are new here to Time with X, you know we don't just look at historical crime summaries. We dissect the hidden psychology of the hunter. And what Chloe didn't realize was that someone wasn't just walking past her porch. Someone was already living inside her network. The disruption began on a Tuesday at exactly 2:14 a.m. Chloe was fast asleep when her phone buzzed loudly on her nightstand. She blinked through the darkness, her eyes adjusting to the blue light of the screen. A notification text read, "Motion detected at your front door." Heart hammering against her ribs, Chloe opened the app to view the live camera feed. She expected to see a stray cat or perhaps a drunk neighbor stumbling down the breezeway. Instead, the screen showed nothing but empty, rain-slicked concrete. The porch light flickered gently. The shadows were entirely still. She chalked it up to a digital glitch, tossed her phone back on the nightstand, and went back to sleep. But the next night, at exactly 2:14 a.m., the phone buzzed again. Motion detected. Once more, she checked the live feed. Once more, the porch was completely vacant. By the fourth consecutive night, irritation turned into a creeping sense of dread. The timing was too precise, too calculated. This time, when the 2:14 a.m. alert flashed, Chloe didn't just look at the screen. She turned up the volume on her phone to listen to the live audio feed from the doorbell's built-in microphone. Through the tiny speaker, she heard the ambient sounds of the night, the distant hum of traffic, the rustle of autumn leaves. But then, she heard something else. A heavy, rhythmic, deliberate sound. Close-range breathing. Someone was standing so close to the doorbell's microphone that their breath was distorting the audio. Terrified, Chloe pressed the two-way talk button on her app. Her voice shook as she spoke into her phone. "Who's out there? I'm calling the police." A long, agonizing silence followed. Then, a metallic, static-laced whisper came back through her phone speaker. The voice didn't sound panicked. It sounded incredibly intimate. It whispered her full name, and then it said, "Your deadbolt won't save you tonight, Chloe." Chloe bolted out of bed, ran to her front door, and looked through the glass peephole. The porch was empty. No one was there. She scrambled back to her bedroom, gripping a kitchen knife, dialing 911 with trembling fingers. As the emergency operator answered, Chloe's phone violently glitched. The smart security app crashed, turned completely black, and forced a hard reboot of her device. When the screen flickered back to life, a brand new notification popped up on her display. It wasn't an alert from her front door camera. The smart doorbell's integrated system had bypassed its own hardware restrictions. activating a secondary hidden wireless feed that Chloe had never installed. She looked down at her screen. The live video feed wasn't showing the outside porch anymore. The camera angle was high up, hidden inside the darkness of her own ceiling vent, looking directly down at Chloe, sitting on her bed holding the knife. And at that exact second, from the dark hallway right outside her bedroom door, she heard the mechanical click of her front door's digital lock sliding open. If this disturbed you, good. It should. Subscribe to Time with X, because the next story is already happening somewhere. The sound of a heavy door lock turning from the inside is a sound your brain isn't wired to process in the dead of night. It breaks a fundamental rule of human survival, the absolute division between the safety of your home and the lawlessness of the outside world. Chloe didn't scream. Her throat completely seized. Through the narrow gap of her bedroom door, she watched the heavy front door swing inward. A cold blast of midnight air swept into the apartment, carrying the scent of damp earth and rain. Standing in the threshold was a tall silhouette, his face obscured by a low-brimmed baseball cap and a medical mask. He didn't rush. He didn't carry a weapon. His posture possessed the eerie, calm confidence of a landlord walking into an empty apartment. He stepped inside. He closed the door behind him with extreme care and engaged the manual deadbolt. In that exact fraction of a second, the emergency operator's voice crackled through Chloe's speakerphone. 911, what is your emergency? The silhouette froze. His head snapped toward the bedroom door. That sudden, clinical voice of authority shattered Chloe's paralysis. She slammed her bedroom door shut, turned the flimsy lock, and threw her entire body weight against the wood. Outside, she heard the heavy, deliberate footsteps accelerating across the linoleum. A violent shoulder struck the bedroom door, sending a shockwave through Chloe's spine. "He's in my house! He's in my house!" she shrieked into the phone. For 90 agonizing seconds, it was a battle of raw physical leverage. Chloe weeping, her bare feet slipping on the hardwood floor, straining every muscle to hold the door shut, while the intruder silently, systematically slammed his weight against the other side. And then the pressure stopped. The silence returned, heavier than before. From the hallway, she didn't hear running footsteps. She didn't hear a window breaking. Instead, she heard the faint, metallic chime of her smart doorbell syncing to a remote server. 5 minutes later, blue and red emergency lights illuminated her blinds as 3 police cruisers tore into the complex. When officers breached the apartment, they found the front door unlocked. The intruder was completely gone. Take a moment and think about this. If you were in Chloe's position, what would you think happened? You'd assume a stalker picked your lock, or perhaps found a spare key. That's exactly what the initial responding officers assumed. They told her to change her locks, put a stick in her window track, and sleep at a hotel. But when a specialized cyber forensics detective named Marcus Vance took a look, he realized the terrifying truth. He bypassed the physical doors entirely and went straight to the apartment's wireless router. What he discovered sent a literal chill through the local police department. There were no signs of forced entry on the lock, no scratches on the brass, no bumped pins. The intruder hadn't picked the lock. He had used an encrypted digital command script sent from a remote IP address over Chloe's own home Wi-Fi network to tell the smart lock to open its gears. Let that sink in. The predator didn't break into her house to get to her network. He used her network to break into her house. Detective Vance pulled the raw data logs from Chloe's smart doorbell, and he discovered that for 24 days prior to the attack, a hidden, unauthorized user had been logged into the portal. Every single time Chloe left for work, the predator received an automated notification. Every time she came home, he watched the live video feed. He mapped her exact daily routine down to the minute. He knew when she showered, when she ate, and exactly what color pajamas she wore to bed. But how? How does a complete stranger gain absolute administrative control over a brand new, out-of-the-box security camera? The answer is something that should make every single person watching this video right now check their own home electronics immediately. It's what behavioral psychologists call the convenience complacency loop. When you buy a smart home device, you expect it to be a secure vault, but the manufacturers prioritize one thing: user convenience. To achieve this, many budget and mid-tier smart doorbell companies use a standardized, mass-produced software foundation known as firmware. To achieve this, many budget and mid-tier smart doorbell companies use a standardized, mass-produced software foundation known as firmware. The companies don't tell you this password exists. It isn't printed in the manual. It cannot be changed by the user. And in early 2026, a massive, unpatched list containing these universal factory backdoor passwords was leaked onto an underground dark web hacking forum. The predator didn't need to be a coding genius. He simply sat in his car in the parking lot, scanned for signals, and entered the leaked key. Within 90 seconds, he didn't just bypass her password, he completely hijacked the hardware. He rerouted the live video data to his own device, disabled the external status (LED), and downloaded a third-party app to manipulate the device's internal microphone, and integrated smart accessories, including her wireless digital door lock. Think about the psychological sadism of this setup. He didn't just want to attack her, he wanted to play with his food. The 2:14 a.m. motion alerts weren't system glitches, they were calculated psychological stress tests. He was sitting in his car less than 50 yards away, intentionally triggering the camera, watching her wake up in real time on his screen, and measuring how much terror he could induce before he ever took a single step onto her porch. But as Detective Vance dug deeper into the digital traffic logs, he noticed a secondary, anomalous data stream that made his blood run completely cold. The data traffic wasn't just flowing from the doorbell outside into the predator's laptop, it was routing through a secondary smart device inside the house. A cheap, internet-connected smart plug Chloe had purchased at a discount store to control her bedroom floor lamp. The predator had used the doorbell as a beachhead to hop onto her entire home network, turning every single smart appliance into an eye and an ear. And as Detective Vance tracked the destination of that hidden internal data stream, he discovered that Chloe Miller wasn't the final destination. The data logs revealed that this exact same laptop was actively exchanging massive amounts of live video data with another house, located less than 3 miles away, where a mother was currently putting her 5-year-old daughter to sleep. right under an unpatched smart security camera? Go check your smart devices right now. Look at your router. Look for devices you don't recognize. And if you want to know what comes next in this story, subscribe to Time with X, because the next case is already happening somewhere. When Chloe Miller survived that terrifying night, she believed that exposing the digital flaw would trigger an immediate, massive safety response. She thought the company that built the camera would want to know exactly how a monster managed to turn their product into a weapon. Instead, she hit a stone wall of corporate bureaucracy and clinical indifference. If you've ever felt completely powerless against a massive corporation, let me know in the comments below. How would you handle a multi-billion-dollar tech conglomerate telling you that your near-fatal attack was entirely your own fault? Because that is exactly what happened next. 2 days after the attack, with the help of Detective Vance's preliminary forensic report, Chloe's family contacted the Consumer Support and Legal Division of the smart home manufacturer, a rising tech giant named Aegis Secure Tech. The response wasn't a recall. It wasn't an apology. It was a calculated, cold, public relations counteroffensive. The company issued a formal statement to local media that read, "Aegis systems are secured with industry-standard encryption. Our internal investigations indicate that the incident in question was not the result of a system breach or software vulnerability. Rather, it was caused by a localized credential stuffing event, stemming from poor password hygiene and unsecured home network routing." Look at the wording of that statement. It is a masterpiece of corporate gaslighting. They didn't deny that a predator got in. They simply shifted the entire moral and legal weight onto a trauma survivor. They told the world that Chloe was targeted because she didn't pick a strong enough password. They claimed her home network was an open window. But Detective Vance knew that was an absolute lie. He had the raw hexadecimal code from Chloe's router log. He had physical proof that the predator never even attempted to guess Chloe's password. The logs showed 0 failed login attempts. The intruder didn't guess the password because he didn't need to. He had used the factory hard-coded backdoor built by Aegis itself. When Chloe's legal counsel presented this data, the company didn't back down. They invoked a hidden clause buried on page 47. A document that every single one of us clicks accept on without ever reading. That clause stated the consumer waives all rights to a trial. It stated that any disclosure to third parties, including local law enforcement, constituted a material breach of contract. Think about the sheer audacity of this legal framework. A company builds a flawed product, leaves a master key in the code, and when a predator uses that key, the company uses a fine print contract to legally gag the victim and block the police. This is where the true crime trajectory turns into a systemic nightmare. This isn't just a story about one bad actor. In the automotive industry, if a manufacturer builds a car with a faulty brake pedal, the federal government forces a recall. But in the world of smart home technology, there are currently 0 federal security standards requiring companies to patch backdoors. They are racing to bring the cheapest cameras to market, while leaving the ultimate security costs to be paid by the consumer in blood. But inside the police precinct, Detective Vance didn't care about the PR war. He was locked in a desperate digital manhunt. He knew that the predator was still out there, riding the waves of the local wireless spectrum, looking for his next point of entry. What he found on his monitor didn't just frustrate him. It filled him with a deep, systemic dread. Over 60% of the smart cameras installed in that neighborhood were running on the same unpatched firmware as Chloe's. Dozens of families were sleeping peacefully, completely unaware that their cameras were blinking green on a predator's dashboard. And then, at 11:42 p.m. on a Friday night, the network analyzer on Vance's desk began to flash a violent, high-priority alert. A device had just initiated a high-volume data extraction targeting a camera less than 2 blocks from Chloe's apartment. The predator wasn't hiding in the dark web anymore. He was actively hunting. The analysts broke through the encryption. The IP address wasn't coming from the apartment lot. It was bouncing off a satellite array. The monster targeting Chloe Miller wasn't a solitary local stalker. He was an operative within a massive digital network. He was part of a network that had already compromised thousands of homes across 5 different states. Subscribe to Time with X.
If you think the digital invasion of Chloe Miller's home was an isolated anomaly, a freak occurrence of a local predator stumbling onto a specific vulnerability, you are about to look at a reality that is infinitely more terrifying. To understand how vast, how lucrative, and how deeply organized this criminal network truly is, we have to travel 800 miles away from Chloe's apartment to a quiet, affluent cul-de-sac in Columbus, Ohio. This is the home of the Ramirez family. Sarah Ramirez was a 34-year-old nurse and a single mother of a 7-year-old boy named Leo. Unlike Chloe, Sarah was a self-described tech enthusiast. She didn't buy a cheap, off-brand camera. She invested over $1,200 in a premium, fully integrated smart home ecosystem, including outdoor floodlight cameras, automated indoor thermostats, baby monitors, and an elite smart doorbell system. She had everything professionally installed. She used complex 16-character passwords. She enabled 2-factor authentication. She did everything the tech companies tell you to do to protect your family. She thought she had built a digital fortress. But on the morning of January 14th, Sarah noticed an incredibly subtle, unsettling anomaly inside her home. She was sitting in her kitchen drinking coffee when she heard a soft, mechanical click coming from the corner of the room. She looked up at her smart indoor security camera, a device meant to monitor her living room while she was away at work. The camera's manual privacy shutter, a physical plastic shield designed to completely cover the lens when the system was turned off, was wide open. And the tiny, pin-sized blue light indicating a live viewer was active was glowing a steady, solid blue. Sarah walked over to the device, opened her master app, and verified that her phone was the only registered user online. According to the software interface, the camera was completely idle, yet the blue light remained illuminated. When she held her ear close to the speaker, she could hear the faint, high-frequency hum of an active digital transmission. Panicked, she unplugged the device from the wall. She assumed it was a standard hardware malfunction. But over the next 3 days, the anomaly spread like a digital virus through her entire household. The smart thermostat in her hallway would randomly plunge the house down to 50 degrees in the middle of the night. The smart television in Leo's playroom would turn on at 3:00 a.m., broadcasting white noise at maximum volume. The absolute breaking point occurred on a Thursday afternoon. Sarah was at the hospital finishing a 12-hour shift when she checked her phone's smart home dashboard. Everything looked normal. But then she received a text message from an unknown, encrypted number. The text didn't contain words, it contained a single, high-resolution photograph. Sarah opened the file and her heart completely stopped. The photograph was a crystal-clear high-angle shot of her 7-year-old son, Leo, sleeping in his bed, taken from the exact perspective of the smart baby monitor mounted directly above his pillow. Attached to the image was a digital timestamp from less than 20 minutes ago along with a brief, chilling message. "He sleeps so soundly, Sarah. You should make sure your front door is locked tonight." Sarah abandoned her shift, flying down the interstate at 90 miles an hour, screaming at the 911 operator on her speakerphone. When she arrived home, Leo was safe, completely unaware of the shadow falling over his life. But when state cybercrimes investigators seized Sarah's router and mirrors of her network traffic, they discovered an operational underworld that makes traditional physical stalking look archaic. The hackers hadn't bypassed Sarah's complex password. They didn't need to defeat her 2-factor authentication. Instead, they had targeted the smart home company's central cloud storage infrastructure. When your smart doorbell or security camera records a video clip, that data isn't stored inside the physical plastic device on your wall. It is instantly transmitted over your Wi-Fi network and uploaded to a massive, centralized server farm managed by the tech company, a digital cloud. And in late 2025, a rogue software engineer working for a third-party data management contractor copied the master administrative API tokens, the digital skeleton keys that allow corporate engineers to access any cloud video stream for maintenance purposes. That single rogue employee didn't just sell one password, He auctioned those master tokens on a highly exclusive encrypted dark web marketplace known as the Watchtower. The Watchtower wasn't a standard criminal site. It was a premium, subscription-based dark web streaming service. For $500 a month in cryptocurrency, wealthy anonymous users from across the globe could log into a clean interactive map of the United States. They could click on a city, zoom in on a specific zip code, and pull up a live, unredacted menu of thousands of hijacked indoor smart cameras, baby monitors, and smart doorbells. Sarah Ramirez and Chloe Miller weren't being targeted by individual, angry ex-boyfriends or local outcasts. Their daily, intimate lives had been transformed into non-consensual reality television content for a global network of predators who bid on access to bedrooms like items on an auction block. The data logs showed that during the 3 weeks leading up to Sarah's text message, over 400 distinct anonymous IP addresses from 12 different countries had logged into her bedroom baby monitor camera feed. They watched her fold laundry. They watched her son play with his toys. They watched her sleep. Think about the psychological horror of that realization. You are completely alone in your most private, sacred space. You look at a device you bought to protect your child. And on the other side of that little glass lens, hundreds of silent, invisible eyes are watching your every movement, cataloging your vulnerabilities, and passing your life around like a digital currency. When federal investigators finally traced the payment routing from the Watchtower's servers, they realized that the command center for this entire network wasn't located in a high-tech underground bunker overseas. The digital trail converged on a highly specific, ordinary physical coordinate, a low-rent, extended-stay motel room located on the outer loop of Atlanta, Georgia. As a joint federal and state tactical unit prepared to breach that motel door, they believed they were about to take down the head of a multi-state cyber syndicate. But as the lead agent placed his hand on the brass doorknob, he heard a sound coming from the interior of the room that made him freeze. It was the distinct, upbeat digital chime of an Aegis Secure Tech smart doorbell system, broadcasting a live, real-time audio announcement that the police were currently standing on the threshold.
The sound of that smart doorbell chime inside an isolated motel room was a jarring reminder of how completely this predator had inverted the landscape of modern security. He had used his target's own technology to build an early warning system for his own criminal hideout. But the Federal Tactical Unit didn't hesitate. They blew the door off its hinges with a hydraulic ram, breaching the room in a cloud of splintered wood and flashbang smoke. Pinned to the carpet in the center of the room, surrounded by 6 flickering computer monitors and rows of external hard drives, was a 41-year-old man named Raymond Vance Cole. Take a look at his physical appearance on your screen right now. He didn't look like an international cyber terrorist. He didn't wear a mask. Raymond Cole was a soft-spoken, balding, former corporate IT support specialist who had been laid off 2 years prior. To his neighbors in the suburban complex where he previously lived, he was just a quiet, harmless tech nerd who offered to help fix local Wi-Fi routers for free. He was the ultimate embodiment of the wolf in sheep's clothing. A man who used his deep understanding of digital networks to indulge in a level of unchecked, invasive sadism that behavioral psychologists describe as absolute voyeuristic control. When digital forensics experts mirrored Cole's master server, they found over 40 terabytes of raw, encrypted video files. It was a digital museum of stolen privacy. There were separate folders labeled for over 3,000 distinct homes across 6 states. Among those folders were the complete, mapped data profiles of Chloe Miller and Sarah Ramirez. During his interrogation, Cole didn't express remorse. He didn't try to deny the technical mechanics of his operation. Instead, he looked at the federal agents with a flat, chillingly arrogant expression and said, "I didn't break into those houses. They left the doors wide open for me. If they cared about their privacy, they wouldn't have paid a corporation $200 to mount a camera directly opposite their beds." In October of 2025, Raymond Vance Cole pled guilty to federal charges of interstate stalking, computer fraud, and wire interception. He was sentenced to 26 years in a maximum security federal penitentiary, without the possibility of parole. But while Cole is currently sitting behind physical steel bars, the systemic vulnerability he exploited remains active in millions of homes right now. Aegis Secure Tech was forced to issue a silent firmware update to patch the factory hard-coded backdoor. But millions of older, budget-tier smart home devices sold under hundreds of different brand names are still running on that exact same compromised codebase. This is the moment where we turn terror into tactical agency. Here at Time with X, we believe that true crime shouldn't just leave you feeling hyper-vigilant. It should leave you armed with real-world knowledge. If you want to ensure that your home security camera isn't currently operating as a digital window for a stranger, you need to execute 3 immediate safety steps today. First, log into your smart home app right now and look at the Registered Devices or Active Sessions tab. If you see a device model, a laptop icon, or an unfamiliar geographic location that you do not personally own, terminate that session instantly and force a complete hard factory reset of your hardware. Second, disable any features labeled Universal Plug and Play or UPnP on your main home internet router. This is the specific digital pathway that allows smart devices to bypass your router's security firewall without your explicit permission. And third, if your budget allows, never purchase unbranded, ultra-cheap smart cameras from online discount storefronts. These companies frequently cut costs by abandoning software security patches entirely, leaving their users permanently exposed to leaked dark web master keys. If this deep dive into the hidden psychology of digital crime has made you look at your own household electronics with a completely new perspective, hit that subscribe button right now. Join our growing community here at Time with X so you never miss another systematic breakdown of the invisible threats operating in our everyday routines. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. Do you think the tech companies should be held criminally liable when their software flaws allow predators to breach a home? I read every single one of your responses. The modern digital landscape is a beautiful, convenient playground. But as Raymond Cole proved, the line between an absolute fortress and an open cage is incredibly thin. Let's dive straight into the deep psychology of human behavior together on the next case. I'll see you over there.